A very good evening and welcome all of you. आज का हिंदू editorial analysis. There are two articles. The first article is related to yesterday article. Put farm laws on hold. तो farm laws पे क्या होगा? We'll analyze the editorial. And today's article about Winston facility in Nalasopara in Karnataka, जहाँ पे एक industrial violence हुआ था. So the second article will be that. So just invest 10 minutes and you'll understand that. See till the end ताकि आपको ये article समझ में आए. Now, the first article is related to related to put farm laws on hold and uphold farmers right. Okay, so this article was in yesterday's this thing editorial, and this is related to GS paper 3 agricultural MSP and subsidy. So let's understand this. So this article says that small and marginal farm sector people will be very vulnerable due to the new laws. ये जो नए laws है, it kind of brings threat to the small and the marginal farm sectors, and government need to ensure wider consultation. Now we all know that these farmers went to the Supreme Court, and a joint panel was formed to look in the demands. This was the suggestion of Supreme Court. Supreme Court ने ये कहा कि आप joint panel बनाइए and find a solution, even though farmer did not agree to Supreme Court solution. But farmers see this as a moral victory. Farmers see that this is something maybe government things are moving in a wide ahead, and now this is a solution. Now let's see what are the demand of farmers. Now we all know a topic बहुत दिन चल रहा है. We already know the most prevalent demand of the farmers is that they want to repeal the new farm laws. जो new farm laws है उनको farmers repeal करना चाहते हैं. And what exactly these laws say? The first law says that private market can be there outside designated mandis. यानी जो APMC registered mandis हैं उसके बाहर private mandis can be there, which means it will induce competition. But farmer feel that this new mandis will actually bring corporate people, and maybe they will monopolize. So that is first problem. The second is contract farming without government regulation. Contract farming is an old practice where a contract is done between the farmer and the producer, maybe you can say a designated company. But again, here the farmers feel that यहाँ government का protection नहीं है, and that is a big challenge, and they want government protection. The third is lifting stock holding limit on farm produce. Right now, Essential Commodities Act के तहत, there was a limit how much you can stock hold. But now the law says that you can stock hold and there is no limit to that as per the regulation of or as per the freedom, that is free market. Now farmers feel that this can further create supply issues in the in the market. So these are three laws which farmers are opposing, and they want पूरा repeal करना चाहते हैं ये. Other thing that they have been demanding in recent time, they want that MSP should be notified for farm produce in private mandis also, which means wherever the private mandis work, not only in APMC mandis, but even in the private mandis, the farmers should get APMC. And the new law of the hoarding, जो ये hoarding वाला जो earlier law था, Essential Commodities Act, this should be repealed. Now currently the new law says that any trader, company or agro business can store unlimited quantity. जो previous law था, Essential Commodities Act 1955, तो ये जो law था, this law put a limit how much you can store. But the new law says that trader, company and agro business can store unlimited quantity. Now when you store unlimited quantity, which means you can monopolize, you can during off season you can have a lot of more than, and you can create a supply issues in the market. You can get good profit by manipulating the market. So that is what farmer fear. So private entity can monopolize the market, they can influence prices, they can influence rates, and these are the fear of the farmers, and farmers want that these laws should be repealed altogether. Now one of the aspects they say that is the fear of corporatization. Corporates will come. You must have heard across the fear of farmer where they say that Adani, Ambani's, big companies will come. Now the idea behind the new farm laws have been that government want to bring investment in the agriculture, mechanize agriculture, bring corporates or private investment in agriculture. Now that has been center of the reform. But farmers feel that it will create a monopoly of these people, and farmer will be at the receiving end, especially small and marginal farmer. Small and marginal farmer, jinka definition hai less than 2 hectares of land. So if you have less than 2 hectares of land, you are small and marginal farmer, and we have around 86% people who are small and marginal, and that is around 10%, that is as per the 10th agricultural census, and this depends almost 56% of the total workforce. Yani more than half of the workforce are the people who are depend on these farming activities. So these this mechanization and corporatization will create huge challenges. Further, government through stealth, they brought the law. They brought this law through ordinance route during the COVID-19 period. And the small farmers, they do not have training, skills, or requisite empowerment, whether they can fight or whether they can actually compete. So that is a problem. Unko lagta hai that corporates might come, investment might come, and maybe we will be at the receiving end, and the prices will not be in our control. Now, why government want to go ahead with the reform, and what are the problem? Let's understand that. The first thing is that reforms process started almost 3 decades ago in 1991 through new economic policy, and we call this as economic liberalization. फिर क्या हुआ 1995 में WTO बना. So both these kind of forced Indian economy that they should open the economy. Government resisted in all the areas except agriculture. Agriculture mein, in WTO, we have a concept of peace clause. Now, what does peace clause says? Peace clause says that government can continue their food security policies, which means the MSPs, which means the Food Security Act, the National Food Security Act. So, इसमें जो government का subsidy provide करता है, that subsidy comes under amber box subsidy. Okay, and amber box subsidies में आता है, and as per WTO, government is crossing the limit of amber box subsidy, and the developed countries want that country like India कोई subsidies को कम करना चाहिए, they should reduce it. But India is opposing, and that is under peace clause. And if peace clause is given favor to India, यानी जो peace clause का अगर support मिलता है under the agreement of agriculture AOA, then in that situation what will happen, that India can continue the food program. But if we succumb to the pressure of WTO, अगर हम WTO के pressure के under में succumb करते हैं, then there is a problem, because we might not be able to continue these programs. So these are the challenges which the government is facing from WTO side as well. Now, in this backdrop, government wants to reform the agriculture. They believe that agriculture is still in the period of 70s and 80s. So they want to double the farmer by 2022, and faster reforms were rolled out. But a basic question जो पूछा जाना चाहिए, as per the article, that you need to do the cost and benefit analysis of reform. Will it benefit the common man, the last farmer? That is a basic question. Further, abhi recently Electricity Act is being discussed, where it will privatize distribution of power. So when distribution of power will be privatized, then again farmer might feel कि भाई हमको electricity महंगा मिलेगा, which is a crucial input for them. And currently they get huge subsidies in electricity. So these are another fear of farmer which are there. दूसरा, payment of MSP, which I already discussed, that MSP का payment legally binding नहीं है. MSP is an administrative decision. Government, cabinet decides, and farmer gets the support. So they say that according to the law, we need a law to support the MSP, which is not there. And further, ये जो 3 laws लाए गए हैं, these are in the areas of state subject. That means state government should make law, but government has used constitutional provision, enabling provision, where they are forcing their law on the state government. So state government bhi saath nahi hai. That is another area. So these are the problems of the reform. Government want to go ahead with the reform, but farmer feel there are challenges. Now, the bigger problem क्या है? जो इंडिया का जो land holdings है, that is very fragmented, and such big ticket reform are huge challenges. Okay, because ये जो reforms हैं, they can work only when you have large farm sector, and for that farmers will have to come together. उनको corporate की तरह काम करना होगा, और they have to make a cooperative. So government ने क्या कहा? Government ने कहा, why don't we make a reform where we make formation of producer companies, okay, FPOs, जैसे FPOs news में you must have heard. So they want that farmers should come together and they should make a producer companies, and they should not interact with the buyer individually. वो individually ना बना के वो group से जो है करें. And government has put an ambitious target of making 10,000 farmer producer organization in the next 2-3 years. Now, what does FPO? FPO is basically, you can say it's a cooperative organization of farmer, but farmer will act like a businessman, like an enterprise, and a group बनाएंगे. They will require a promoter, but this promoter could be a private company or can be an NGO. So promoter क्या पड़ेगा, push करेगा FPOs को, and they will have a knowledge of government grant, tax rebate, government schemes, official schemes जो है उनका benefit ले सकता है. So what farmers feel that FPO, even if they create, basically a company might be involved. So agri-business starts even before FPO is registered, and that is the fear they have. So far, the FPO's progress have been very tardy. Only 881 FPOs have been registered so far. So that is a problem. India mein jo, government wants that farmers should collaborate, create organization, and then do the trade and business like a cooperative organization, as we have seen in dairy, as we have seen in other areas where they are successful. So this is a problem, and as per this article, this is a very risky proposition from farmers' point of view. Now, एक stalemate hai. There is a deadlock between farmers. Almost a month has passed, and farmers are sitting there. So, what is a way forward? क्या करना चाहिए? Now, India is a democracy, remember. And in a democracy, implementation of laws is important, but you bring consensus. You bring all stakeholders. आप involve करिए stakeholders को. Bring transparent and participative consultations. Bring Gram Panchayats also, if possible, and that is a way forward. The article ends and says that historically, also in 2005, National Advisory Committee was formed in the UPA government, and that helped in creating pro-people right-based act. For example, Manrega was brought in 2005. National Food Security Act was brought in 2013. So these were, landmark, laws, because यहाँ पे right-based आप laws लेके आ रहे हो, where people have right to work. Manrega is basically equivalent to right to work. National Food Security Act is equivalent to right to work. So that is maybe a way forward. We need to be more pro-people in terms of the way we, interact. So that is the first article. The second article talks about industrial peace and production. Now, abhi kya hua tha? Recently, in the Wistron facility in Karnataka, a violence broke out. The employees were not paid salaries during the COVID period. And this facility hai, ye Taiwan ka firm hai, Taiwanese firm is there, that is Wistron Corporation. And they are basically subcontractor of Apple. So Apple phones banate hain, they are subcontractor. And because of violence happened, and hundreds of crore rupees were lost in that process. Now that questions that, is India following exploitative labor practices? Will it impact our ease of doing business? So government wants to resolve this, and Apple also came in between, and Apple said that no, we will stop the new orders from the Wistron Corporation, and they have put the company on probation. So there is a step. This is a step forward in corporate accountability and ethical business practices. Wistron maybe have apologized to the workers, and corrective measures have been brought in to address the grievances. So that is the context of this article. Now let's go understand the realities of manufacturing. The world ke top manufacturing countries hai, like China, what they do, they have their companies where big companies subcontract karte hain. For example, Apple will not manufacture phone, they will subcontract to some other companies. So major giants like Apple subcontract their production, but ye jo companies hai, there is huge violation of labor standard and practices. Similarly, similar events have also happened in the past. For example, India की बात कर रहे हैं, तो 2017 में Chinese brand के smartphones का subcontracting में there were violences involved by workers. Why? Because workers were not paid properly. So subcontracting to labor procurement happens, and there is a problem. Exploitation is there. There are constraints. So we need to address the grievances of such people. Now, what are the problems that workers face? Samajhte. The first is that these companies put heavy target in a very short time of high production. Now, naturally, the company will put target, and burden is on the employers. Now, employers are forced to work in harsh condition. They do overtime without breaks. There is a lot of supervision that is there. Salary, jo pay hai, wo kam hota hai. There is practically no social security, because these are nothing but these are contractual workers. And many a times in China, there have been issues of forced student internship. Yani student jo interns hote hain, unko aap force karte ho, and again there is no social security. So that thus has been the practices in the countries like China, and similar practice we see in India as well in recent time. In China, Foxconn ने 2010 में बहुत सारे workers suicide करने लगे, and that is precisely because the heavy and harsh working condition, exploitation of labor, wage, no social security was a problem. यहाँ पे Chinese government भी involved थी, the state colluded. because they wanted cheap labor, and cheap labor was supplied. China में जो reform हुए थे 1980s में, that brought cheap labor, rural migrant labor to at lower wages, और इस वजह से ऐसी facilities in countries में create हुई. That is precisely the reason how China became a manufacturing hub, but at the cost of huge human cost, at the cost of labor violation. So that has been the problem. Now India bhi chahta hai that India becomes a manufacturing hub. So India has brought a new labor code. The articles feel that labor protection yahan kam hai. Article says that India has a weak legal regulatory labor architecture and capacity. We have a poor comprehension, supervision. We have lack of control over foreign invested enterprise. जो भी countries foreign से आती है उनमें हमारा control weak है, and that is something that we witness. So in future we might see such event. But India को सोचता है कि such events put a bad name on in India's you can say the labor practices, and there is a fear of flight of capital and coupled with weak state capacity. Government भी investment बढ़ाना चाहती है, and that is a problem that government is facing. So this is but on the other side, the poor working condition, the labor condition, the harsh condition, no social security, income security, overtime, these are problems that workers face. Now, what is the way ahead? Now, here Apple has taken a very good initiative, and they have brought a code of conduct to all the supervisors, suppliers, sorry, वो जो subcontracting firms हैं, because Apple खुद produce नहीं करता है, अपने firms को देता है. So it has led to monitoring and audit of labor standards and safeguards. Okay, so future में monitoring and safeguard होगा. But remember, there is a huge challenge because you have to meet production target and you have to meet at the same time industrial peace. Both will not go together. A middle maybe line has to be created. The labor need to be respected. They need to we need to create a mechanism where grievances of labor is also addressed. Maybe they can represent association and union. They can collectively bargain for what they are there. There is a regular social dialogue between worker and employers are also needed. So that is a way forward. आपको एक अच्छा labor working condition India में create करना होगा, and that is a way forward. So that completes the second article. It's a very good article, so you might get questions on mains. Now there are 2 questions for mains. You can attempt them as well. So that is all for today's live video, and hopefully you enjoyed it. See it regularly, and I will be coming on regular basis.